Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Well, here it is. We started a brand new year. What are you going to do with it? You have that proverbial clean slate, the fresh canvas. You can do anything with it. Are you going to take action, or are you going to wait a little bit on those goals? And why would you wait? What's holding you back? We're going to dig into that today. Ben Eden is an amazing life coach. He works with how do we say that? Entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Solopreneur.
And lots of people really move their lives forward. And he's back with us today. Ben, welcome. How you doing? Happy New Year, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And Happy New Year to you too. I mean, it's exciting to see what we can accomplish in 2023.
Absolutely. And why do many of us, I mean, we hear it all the time. You have that resolution. I don't even know if the word resolution is a good word, but you jump into it. And then 2-3 weeks later, you kind of abandon what you're doing. Why do we not take action, or why do we take that action and then we hit the pause?
Hey, this is a great subject. And I'll give whoever came up with the word resolution some credit, because the word resolution generally implies that, hey, I'm resolved to finally make a change or finally do what I've been needing to do for a while. And now New Year's is a good time to say that. The problem is that most of us take a resolution and we say, oh no, it's New Year's and I need to have this list. And so I'm going to say, I need to lose weight. I need to start my business and I need to do this. But all it is an idea. And you start with a little bit of motivation because the timing is right. Or more accurately, it's the social pressure of everybody has to have a resolution, right? And so you start with some motivation, but it fizzles out after about a week. And the reason why is because it's not a deep enough reason to take action. Can I jump into this right now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here's what's huge, and it's what coaching goes through. Because just the way society is, we don't often think at this level. So if I had a triangle here's a little triangle with my fingers. At the top are thoughts and beliefs. Over here are behaviors, and over here are results. Okay, so here's your triangle. Now, all of us want different results. We want to make more money. We want to start a great business. We want to have a happy family. We want to have some sort of result that makes us feel good. We talked about pain and pleasure last time. And in order to get that result, we think we have to do certain behaviors, resolutions. I need to work out. Oh, I need to invest. Oh, I need to talk to this person. Okay, those are great ideas as behaviors, and we hope that those behaviors are going to get that result. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But here's the big reason as to why they may not, is because of that top part of the triangle that we often forget about, which is the thoughts and the beliefs. If we don't believe that we will get that result, even though we might want it, we don't believe we'll get it, then those behaviors will not get us there. I mean, the most common thing to illustrate is weight. I'll start with weight and then I'll go with sales, okay? But with weight, hey, I want to lose 10 pounds, cool. And we put in the behavior, I go to the gym, but it sucks. I get tired, now I have to eat more and I don't have money to buy healthy food. I can't eat my donuts anymore. And now the behavior is not worth it because I didn't really believe that I could. Because my belief is that my current lifestyle is better or easier than the lifestyle it would take to get the results that I want. Does that make sense so far?
Absolutely. And it's also, I believe, I've been there, a ton of times. When it comes to that belief, you've already defeated yourself before you came out of the gate. You're already thinking that, well, last time I did it, I didn't lose weight. Well, I'll just go through the motions, but you're really not living the motions.
That's exactly right. And I appreciate bringing that up because with this triangle, if we look at our past results, then we let those results affect our beliefs. And we'll say, well, it didn't work last time, so I don't believe it will this time, but I guess I'm still going to do the behaviors to look like I'm trying, but I already know I'm not going to get the results. Okay. So that's how the triangle works. Here's an example with sales, because we're entrepreneurs. I worked with a client last year who went through this scenario. He wasn't making the money he wanted and his business wasn't where he wanted it to be. And it turned out that even though he was showing up to work and he was doing what he was supposed to, he had a belief that said, if I raise my prices, people won't come to me anymore. So he had a belief that I'm not worth charging more. Okay, that's something we could take a whole episode on. But another belief was, if I, tell people more about my services, in other words, upsell or whatever term you want to use, then I will feel like a sleazy salesman. they can't afford it. And I don't want to come off as that type of person. So I mentioned 3 or 4 beliefs right there. All of those beliefs affected his behaviors. He said, well, I would like to ask for it, but I'm not going to because this belief, and therefore my result speaks for itself. I'm not getting the results that I want, therefore I must not be worth it. There's this big vicious cycle that happens. And so that's the benefit of having a coach, because it's a third party professional who can help you challenge those beliefs and say, well, do we know that those people won't buy from you? Do we know that they'll think you're a sleazy salesman? And if that's not the case, we can work on some past beliefs. Then your behaviors change. Then this particular client, yeah, he raised his prices by 50%. And hey, people bought. He had more people the month he raised his prices than he did the month prior, which is insane.
Wow.
And so it totally works when we change that belief.
In that situation, would they be believing that we're going to lose some clients? Some are not going to continue because I raised my price.
Mm-hmm. And you know, first of all, that's belief, right? Do we know it's the case? We do not.
We do not.
In some cases, maybe. And if it happens, okay. Because sometimes as you raise your bar and you are meeting your level of value, then your clientele changes. And that's okay. You know, I used to charge $25 to coach. And at that time, I was like, this is a lot of money. Why would people pay me $25 to do this? Now my price has changed and my clientele has changed. They are ready to make the changes that are going to make them much more than I charge them. And they're ready to make much deeper changes than what I did in the past, because I know my value. And because I know that, I can help others know theirs, and everybody benefits.
And there are people who may look at that situation and think, oh, well, it's so cheap, it can't be good. And whether you could be the best on the planet, you just blocked out a whole segment of a demographic that you could go after because of their belief that you're priced too low.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot too. Even in my own case, like, right, and then they choose somebody else. I'm like, what, how did that even happen? This is like way back in the day. And then I thought, it's like, you know what? Because they think that it's not, yeah, it's, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So I'm going to just move past it and pay more for it. Yeah, beliefs are a big issue. And I had this conversation with somebody yesterday about abundance, a really good friend of mine. And she's always talking about, I need to make more money. I need to make more money. I was like, well, you probably have those beliefs that you can't. And she started thinking about it and came up with her ex-husband used to put some of those beliefs in her mind that I did everything for you. You can't do it on your own. And then she kind of sits there instead of moving it forward, but she has the potential to move it forward.
Exactly. And that's a great point. So 2 thoughts that came to my mind. We're at the beginning of 2023. Your year can look any way you want it, and it will match your beliefs. I mentioned this in a past episode, but what I do first with my clients is that we establish your belief for the future. And if you can make that real in your head, then it can become real in real life. But if your belief says, yeah, I'm worth $20,000, okay, make $20,000. But if your belief says, hey, I'm worth $150,000, great. Then you'll act differently, because you'll start to act in ways that will get you that result because of your belief. To your point of beliefs that we're grown up with, that's in the subconscious, and we don't really realize it. It's not like it's posted on our computer or on our wall. It says, you believe this way. We just think that's how life is, and we don't even realize it. So when maybe, and this, I can relate to this personally, and I know some others as well, like maybe I was raised going to the ice cream shop, and you always had to get 1 scoop. Just because 2 scoops is a little too much, right? You don't need it. You can't afford it. It's more money, whatever. And whether we realize it or not, then we think, well, I can't get the extras, or I can't pay more, or I can't get the extra value because I just need to stay down here.
Ben, don't you know that, Ben, money doesn't grow on trees? Come on, Ben. Don't you realize that? How many times that your parents say that, and it starts to limit you? Like, oh, we can't have abundance. We don't have money. We can't. We don't realize that those little things that our parents said, and they didn't know, what were they doing? repeating their parents. It
Yeah.
just it's that generational cycle that just continues. But you recognize that back in your childhood. How did you find that? Is it you just went back in your mind and thought about it?
Well, specifically because I've done a lot of coaching myself. I have a coach myself, and so we work through these and we get deeper and deeper, and it allows me to grow, and it's amazing. But also, for example, I didn't realize this specifically about myself until I was at the ice cream shop recently with my parents and my brother. And then I heard what they said, and I'm like, oh my goodness. They don't mean it with that intent to be like, oh, we're cheap and we can't afford it. But it's by saying that, I can totally understand why we believe the way we do about value and about spending. I mean, it's an extra $2. And so it's all about how you look at it. It's like $2. But if I save that this many times over the rest of the year, how much more could I have at the end of the year? Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Or how can we just live in this cycle of abundance and see what else happens? And I'm telling you, I've made some changes like that because I believe in my beliefs change. My years are amazing.
It's so good to hear. I really truly mean that, and I want that for everybody. How do you change your beliefs once you identify it? Let's say you're blessed enough to identify it. Maybe it's through a coach like yourself. If the layers got peeled back, how do you change the beliefs?
That's a great question. And I'm better doing it in real life, with a real scenario. So I'd pick on you, but
Go right ahead. Because that's one of my beliefs. I was picked on when I was younger. I was.
Okay. And so let's try this.
Sure.
Why do you think you were picked on when you were younger?
Because I was overweight.
Okay. So you were overweight and you were picked on. And who was picking on you?
Would have been kids on the playground. Also, my parents split up when I was very young. And, I don't think my dad was as supportive as he could have been at that time when I was going through that.
Okay. So you just brought up a bunch of issues, a bunch of scenarios, right? Parents, father, school, overweight, all sorts of things that affect how you see yourself, correct?
100%.
Now, if we don't address the underlying belief, Steve could live his life blaming all sorts of other things. I'm just overweight because, I cannot lose weight. I just personally can't. All these fads don't work. Or it's all my dad's fault. Or, man, those people at school, they're just so rude. And then you have something against school the rest of your life. Okay, so you could live your life in blame, or we could start to understand how it affects you and what belief you have. So you first started by saying, hey, I was picked on because I was overweight, and then I have all these family situations. Let me ask one more question before we dive a little deeper. Do you know what led to you being overweight?
I don't, but I believe that my mother was just a free for all. Have milk, have donuts, it's okay. Busy mom, and that was, it is what it was. I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
I don't know. And
All right.
I was a very picky eater too when I was very little.
No worries. But I love what you mentioned. I don't know that for a fact. That is you challenging a belief. You could just say, well, it was my mom's fault. She put out donuts and I love donuts. So that's why I was overweight. I don't know.
Could have been.
But Steve, are you overweight today?
Could lose a couple of pounds.
Okay.
But I'm not. But I will say this. It took years for it to get off my radar. Like I would look in the mirror and, I had a 28-inch waist when I was in my 20s and just was way too thin because of that. So I'm very comfortable in my skin, but yeah, I weighed less last year. So I'm going to drop back a couple of pounds, but it's always on my radar because of my childhood.
Okay. And Steve, I appreciate your vulnerability right here. Okay. Now, I can just see you on a screen. You don't look overweight to me. That's why I asked. And there, of course, there's always an individual perception. I have a few pounds to lose. Yeah. Okay. So we can still have some improvement or some change. That's fine. But you are not the same as you were when you were a child, correct?
Correct.
And then I want to point out, for the benefit of all the listeners, what happened. You say you were overweight when you were a child. And then in your 20s, you were a size 28 waist, which was a little too skinny, you said, right?
Yes.
And so you flipped from overweight to, oh my goodness, a little too thin. but it's all based on the same belief. I need to prove myself to others. I was overweight. Now I have to do everything possible not to be overweight. So I've gone to the extreme.
Yep.
But it's always to prove. Do you know what it is you need to prove?
No, that I'm not overweight.
Okay, and that's okay. So let's go a little bit deeper. How did your how did you feel towards your parents when you were little?
Tough question again, because they split up. So there was always negativity in that regard. It wasn't a amicable splitting.
Yeah. And so, did you feel like your eating was a place of comfort or a place of certainty?
Really good point. May have been, don't know for sure, but I would say I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay.
Good point.
Any other thoughts that come to your mind right now?
Hmm. One thing I will say for sure, that whole situation when I was younger definitely put a kibosh on my confidence going
Mm,
through, high school and on. I think that if I confronted that way back, things would have been a lot easier, a lot smoother in terms of progressing growing up.
yeah. Okay. So there's another thing. It hits on your confidence. So here's some things that could be happening right now in Steve's life. Well, could have happened, right?
Right.
In the beginning, your parents divorced. That's a big thing. It's huge. It has a huge effect on us, as our identity, how we feel about ourselves. And in many cases, we turn to food because it's safe. It's a coping mechanism. Even today, some of us turn to food.
Sure.
And a business deal didn't work out. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go drink. I'm going to go to the bar, whatever. Because
Yep.
it's comfort and it's safe. Hey, I know that if I order, I can eat and it'll taste good. Then, with that sense of confidence, I maybe I didn't get it from my parents. Now I need people to stop picking on me. They picked on me because I was overweight. Well, watch this. I'm not going to be overweight anymore. I mean, did that solve the problem of people picking on you?
Um, I wasn't picked on in my 20s, but yes, in my mind, it's like that's never going to happen again because I lost the weight.
Exactly. And so we think, hey, remember our pain to pleasure thing, right? Pain is people picking on me. I don't want that to happen anymore. So I'm going to do everything necessary to reverse the situation that I think is causing it. Now, today, Steve, I am observing this about you, that you have already gone through this journey of improving your confidence, and because you're not overweight anymore. So you fixed something. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Do you know what that something is?
So you're saying I fixed something. What did I fix?
Yeah, something changed. You've been through this journey already. So I just want to bring it out for
Uh,
everybody.
Brought back confidence or brought confidence.
Okay. And how did you do that?
How did I?
Yeah.
Um, Better vision of myself, unlike when I was younger, when I was overweight.
Hey, okay. And so I'm going to ask one more question, then we're going to illustrate what just happened. What was it that helped you have a better vision of yourself?
The very beginning,
Sure. Just share what it was, if you will.
because I'll tell you where all the weight disappeared and where it all kind of changed, and that's where the pivot went.
Yes.
I started doing this. I started, I found a love of broadcasting, producing in 12th grade. And I stayed at school until 11 o'clock at night editing video. And then I wasn't eating. And all the weight went away. So
Yeah.
I found what I love to do. And then that I think moved things forward. However, still carried I call it a backpack. I had the backpack on that had the lack of confidence back there. And I was still carrying that for quite some time after that.
Yeah. Okay. And for the sake of time, I know we can't go super deep on this, but you say
We
you were
went pretty
carrying this.
deep already. And that's a
Thank
good
you
thing.
for doing it. By the
Yeah.
way,
And that's a good thing.
you say you carried this backpack for a while, and that was in past tense. So what caused it to at least be lightened? Do you know what that was?
Do I know or do you know?
I have some thoughts, but I'm asking you first.
Not 100% sure. Just more comfortable in my skin and life. I got. How did I get past that? Good for you. How did I get past that? Good for you. And then your confidence just builds along the way.
Okay, good. And so, thank you, Steve. I
Thank you,
will
Ben.
illustrate a couple of things that happen often. Okay. Now, in this scenario, I knew that you had made this journey already, which was why we didn't pinpoint something and then have a turnaround in this moment, right? But even in this moment, we can still pull out some wins, some growth, and some celebration. And when your brain does that, all of a sudden it adds to your confidence and it leaves behind the old identity. So your old identity was, hey, I'm overweight, people are picking on me. I don't have confidence. And then you made your own journey and you found a passion, which is what you're doing now, right? And you found out that you were good at it. And you found out that you enjoyed it and that people enjoyed what you were doing. Is that right?
I'd say so.
Okay. And so each little moment that you do that, your brain goes from saying, people pick on me because I'm overweight, people don't like me, I'm not good enough, I won't be loved. Those are some deep beliefs. All of us have at one time or another, but those are beliefs that you used to have. And now your new beliefs are, hey, I do what I love, I'm good at it, people appreciate what I do, therefore I am good enough, and I do feel loved. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Okay. And so what I did here, again, I knew that Steve had already gone through a lot of this journey, so we didn't go through that. But I want to illustrate to everybody his old belief, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't loved, and I showed it with being overweight or too skinny. I tried to fix it with coping mechanisms. Now that he's found his passion, something that he aligns with, that has changed his identity. Gradually, I am good enough, I do feel loved, and I get to share that value with others. So there's a little scenario that we can do in coaching, right? Steve is now doing his fun business, and all of us solopreneurs, we want to do our fun business. And if our old belief is saying, oh, man, well, I have to appear a certain way, I have to be super skinny or a perfect weight, then we're going to carry around the backpack of the past. But with a coach and sometimes therapy, I'll admit that I use therapy, that's fine. Sometimes with both, but with coaching specifically, we say, what do you want your future to look like? What does it look like now? And then what do we need to do to get there? What are some obstacles we need to overcome? Maybe we just need some motivation, maybe some new beliefs. And as we do it, your 2023 becomes what you want it to be, not just, well, let's see what happens at the end of the year.
So you observed, nailed quite a few things, if everything, asked the right questions to peel back my layers. And I will say this, work in progress, because that situation from my childhood, there are still pieces of it that hang around. It's not like you just, hey, it's all gone. It's all those big things like parents splitting up or whatever major trauma you might have had. There's still pieces of them always floating out there.
Yeah.
I don't think that we can always fully get rid of them. Sometimes they come up every once in a while. But that's why it's so effective to work with somebody like you that asks the right questions, can peel back the layers and try to get to most of that to get rid of those limiting beliefs so you can move forward. Super cool.
Exactly. Can I share one more thing on that? Maybe on our next one, maybe I'll share my story sometime, but here's the thing. To your point, we all have something that happens in our life, something traumatic, something defining, whatever. And we
Absolutely.
can choose to always let it define us for the rest of our lives, or we can do what's necessary to have it be part of our story, but not define our lives. So let me clarify that in one other way. We can always carry around that I'm broken, that I'm not good enough because of this. And we can live our lives that way. Or we can relate with others and say, yeah, I've been through something pretty darn hard too. Maybe it's not the same. It doesn't have to be the same. I validate that it happened, but I know that it's in the past. I've grown, I've become different, I've made mistakes, I've changed. And then we have a growth mindset instead of a broken mindset. Okay. So, in my story, again, we'll have to share it another time, but I used to have a ghost that haunted me, not a literal ghost, but a trauma, right? Something that happened.
I remember you shared something, and you know what? We are out of time. I'd like to go there next time. You started once before in sharing your story, and I have to tell you, I appreciate your being honest about where you were and how you got here. And I will even say this, and I don't know if you would agree with you. If I went back 2, 3, 4 years ago, um, I probably wouldn't confront some recent things that have taken place in my life. unless I
Exactly.
move past certain things. Those limiting beliefs. So
There you
it's
go.
it's more of a, growth move forward, or the broken syndrome. Nobody wants to be, I hate that word, but it describes it best. Nobody wants to be broken. Nobody wants to live in those limiting beliefs that you can't move your life forward. Your website, share it with everybody.
ReachYourUltimatePotential.com.
Yeah, Ben's good. I think I need to recover from that. But it was a great, call it an exercise, and it was almost like you were running after me, and you were right on my tail, not letting me, which you need to, because there's accountability, and that's why, I mean that all in a good way. That's the mark of a good coach. I truly, truly believe that, and that would be you.
Well, thank you.
It's good stuff. Do I owe you a copay or something?
No, this is good. I appreciate doing this, and anybody else who needs this value, wants this value, ready to take that action, please reach out and watch what happens to you.
Yeah, it's a brand new year. Why live in the past with all those limiting beliefs? Like we said in the beginning, you have a clean slate. Let's start it fresh and move it forward. Ben, thank you so much, and definitely look forward next time we get together.
Thank you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.